we ought to encourage Congress to change the name to the John Lewis Restoration Voting Rights Act. It needs to be restored.
That was Martin Luther King III speaking in Selma over the weekend. Protecting everyone's equal access to voting was a lifelong mission and fight for Congressman Lewis. A recent court decision took out some key pieces of the Voting Rights Act meant to stop voter suppression. As Jennifer Bellamy reports, there are calls for U.S. lawmakers to restore it in his honor.
Protecting and expanding the right to vote is the legacy of John Lewis's work that his colleagues are calling on the Senate to extend. The House has already passed a bill to restore key parts of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and leaders now want senators to do the same and rename it after Lewis. It's not likely to happen. In 2013, the Supreme Court struck down parts of the 1965 law. The Shelby County v. Holder decision tossed out a pre-clearance provision that required officials in more than a dozen mostly southern states to get federal approval before changing the voting process. In December, Lewis himself presided over the House as it approved a bill to reverse the decision and place new rules on states and local jurisdictions. Supporters say it would block voter suppression and create a process for areas with a history of voting rights violations to make changes through the Justice Department. Democrats argue issues like some seen in Georgia's 2018 election of strict voter registration requirements and polling place confusion are examples of why federal oversight is needed in places with histories of discrimination. In comments last week to the New York Times, Republican Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has said claims from Democrats and civil rights groups that black voters were disadvantaged by measures like ID requirements or shortened voting hours are without merit.
Republicans have called the bill unnecessary, saying it would take away important power at the state level. And President Trump has said he's going to veto this bill if it ever makes it to his desk.